Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum, and we're actually going to go through a kind of a price prediction over the entire market cycle, just based on what we've seen before and looking at primarily the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss another video, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. I'll also remind you we do have a premium list if you want extra content, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But let's go ahead and jump in. So the one thing we want to talk about first, before we get into looking at more of a longer term prediction, is noting that we have seen we've seen this candle now really push past this 20-month moving average, which we had been looking at for a while, as it had historically held support on this line, and for the last 5 months have been holding resistance. And now you can see that we kind of have just blasted through that 0.025 resistance level. So that's the first thing I want to note, and we quite handily just moved up past it. Now, what we're going to talk about is this longer term prediction. So the first thing we need to do, right, is understand what Bitcoin's doing, because it all moves in relation to Bitcoin, whether you like it or not. And I think most people who watch the channel, they appreciate that is the market mover. So the first thing we can note is if we just say take, previous all-time highs and draw it over to, and note that I took the candle, not that wick, and we just draw it horizontally to see when we broke through it, you can see that the general time frames that it took. I mean, this is nothing new. We've talked about this before, but you get the general idea, right? We typically break the all-time high essentially once our primary regression band of Bitcoin, which is fit to non-bubble data, once the fair valuation of Bitcoin gets to that level, and then we go parabolic. So you can see it especially here. We went parabolic after reaching our previous all-time high within our regression band. And if that were to happen again, then it's likely going to take us out to maybe the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022. So maybe Q4 of 2021 or Q1 of 2022, somewhere in that time frame. Now, if this is the case, we know that Bitcoin getting to its previous all-time high is usually a good thing for a lot of other coins. Historically speaking, this is when a lot of coins make their move. We've also noticed before that Ethereum tends to make its move. Also, in the last market cycle, once Bitcoin was bullish above that 20-week moving average, was holding it as support, confirming the bull market had started. Currently, Bitcoin has been above the 20-week moving average for quite a while, and Ethereum is starting to gain some of that confidence that we've been talking about. Yes, the move so far that we've seen today is great. It's not the move we're waiting for, but it's a good start. So with this in mind, let's suppose that Bitcoin gets to 20K by the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022. And again, it's not to say that we can't go up there sooner. I just don't think we're going to see a sustainable $20,000 Bitcoin where it's more or less holding 20K as support until that time frame. So if we go over to the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line. So let's just draw a line, when 2022 starts. We're going to draw a vertical line up. And then, because we've talked about lengthening cycle theory on the channel a lot, I think a lot of you are familiar with the general idea of probably not seeing a new paradigm shift in the price of a lot of these coins until, say, late summer 2023. I need to click back on the bar. So we'll go to let's just say August of 2023, and we're going to draw a line. Okay, so there we have two lines, generally showing the our theoretical next all-time high in where Bitcoin is going to be, and then also when we're going to get back to our previous all-time high. So hopefully into 2021, early 2022. Now, we also recognize that there is some, uncertainty in this. Like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So let's draw kind of a box around it and say, maybe it could go out sometime in, 2024. I don't know exactly, but, we're just kind of getting a general idea of when this could occur. So let's say, it's somewhere in this window. Where Bitcoin reaches its new paradigm shift. It's probably trading around 6 figures, plus or minus a few 10K. And then let's also draw on here kind of an uncertainty around the 2022. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a rectangle from March of 2022 to October of 2021 to cover those 2 quarters and say, okay, that's our uncertainty band of when Bitcoin would reach a sustainable $20,000, if that makes sense. So these are the key milestones we're looking at. Now, if you remember, we've also talked about the general idea of these longer term trends where a previous cool down phase tends to be the next accumulation phase. You can see it here, and then you can see it here. Our cool down phase was more or less our accumulation phase, and then our peaks end up being our cool down phases of the next, say, sub-cycle. So with that in mind, let's just suppose that Ethereum makes a move. And one of the things that we recognize is that when Bitcoin makes a run to 20K, as it did in, back in 2017, early 2017, Bitcoin was making a run back to its previous all-time high at around $1,100. So if we assume that Bitcoin is making a run to 20K sometime in this time frame, then we would actually expect the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio to be bleeding around that time. Because typically when Bitcoin makes these moves, the rest of the market just kind of sits and watches. So the first thing we need to recognize is, okay, this is likely going to be when the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio is bleeding a little bit. Now let's draw a couple lines here. So let's first draw, say, this peak here, and we're just going to draw it over through our market cycle. And note that this was our previous peak became our kind of our cool down phase before a final accumulation phase. Okay, and then we're also going to draw a peak up here. And then we'll also, just go ahead and show that, our cool down phase here and then the accumulation phase that corresponded to it. So basically right here. All right, and again, it's wise in general to, to take into account that there is some uncertainty associated with this. We don't know, it's not an exact science by any means. So let's draw out some of these. Let me make this a different color. And then let's draw out, say, our uncertainty here. And then finally one up in this top region. So we basically have our key levels that we're looking at for the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. So there we have it. This is basically what we're looking at for the market cycle. Now, the first thing we need to consider is we know that previous kind of cool down phases tended to be our next accumulation range. So what does that mean? That likely means, and again, whether it happens, say, this month or next month or 6 months from now is somewhat irrelevant. The idea is that it will likely happen before Bitcoin gets to its previous all-time high, that we would see a move from Ethereum, and a nice move, not a 7% move or an 8% move, but I'm hoping maybe a couple 100% move against Bitcoin. So the idea is that if this is our new accumulation range, then we need to first go above it and then ultimately retrace back down to it when Bitcoin is making a run at 20K. So if we just draw, say, a few trend lines, let's take a light blue, and we'll say that, at some point, we don't know if it's going to happen immediately. I can't, short-term price movements, I think, are, again, as I've said before, more or less geometric Brownian motion, a random walk, rather than anything that anyone could reasonably predict with that much accuracy. But if we do say that this run continues and we don't retrace, and if Bitcoin, say, holds the current levels, it doesn't go back down to, say, 6K, let's pretend like it doesn't ever visit the 200-week moving average until the next market cycle, then let's assume that Ethereum starts to make this move, and then it, comes back up to, say, this point over here, which would, I don't know if it would quite reach our previous all-time high of around, 0.15. I don't think we would go quite that high that early on. But, something like, the ratio currently is 0.027. So essentially, if it were to go to, 0.06 or something, we're talking about Ethereum being $600 or $700. If Bitcoin, kind of starts to go up, it doesn't really make a huge move, and Ethereum keeps moving. So let's suppose that it kind of comes up to maybe this level over here. but it's not going to be sustainable because Bitcoin is still going to make a move at some point to to its next to 20K. So I don't know exactly when this would happen, and maybe it would kind of come up and then go back down and then go back up or something like that. But ultimately, I would expect us to go back down to this region at some point. And this would likely occur when Bitcoin makes a run at 20K. And then you can see that this is what happened last time. So this was, end of 2016, Ethereum Bitcoin had already made a significant move. But then when Bitcoin made its run at the previous all-time high, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio bled a lot. Okay? So if it's going to bleed, then maybe this would be the region that it would do it, because this is when we're speculating that Bitcoin might break 20K and sustain it. Okay, so this is the general idea. So with that said, this is a move you want to capture. You want to recognize that if this happens, that the party will not last forever, and that we would likely need to see a retracement as Bitcoin makes its own move to 20K. Remember, Bitcoin is the market mover. It's what defines the state of the market. The reason all these other coins are doing so well right now is because Bitcoin is up significantly. It's above the 20-week moving average, and it's staying there. It's been holding that level for every single week. It's continued to stay there despite many attempts to go back down to 8,800, 8,900. It's stayed well above the 20-week moving average, which is currently at around 82 to 8,300. So let's suppose that it comes back down into this region. Okay, now if we do, and then Bitcoin does go up to 20K, then I would expect Ethereum shortly thereafter to make its own move again with respect to Bitcoin. So first it's going to respect Bitcoin and say, you know what, Bitcoin is king, and it's going to lose value against Bitcoin, and then it's going to see its former glory, and I think it'll start moving again significantly in 2022. It might even come up to this level at around 0.1, the 0.1 threshold, say, with respect to Bitcoin. And note that if Bitcoin is 20K and the ratio of Ethereum to Bitcoin is 0.1, then that would put Ethereum at a 2K valuation, so $2,000 per Ethereum, which makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, it'd be slightly higher than its previous all-time high, and it's basically just sticking around for the bull market. I mean, I think Ethereum is one of those coins that will be one of the better holds this market cycle. This is not financial advice. This is just one of the coins that I hold. So then we have this move in, say, 2022 for the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio that'll take us to 0.12, 0.1, maybe somewhere in that region. But then what's going to happen? Bitcoin is going to start to go on another bull run. And you can see here, in June of 2017, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio bled again until December of 2017. And this was a significant move. I mean, it went from, 0.15 all the way down to 0.03. So if you think that these moves can't happen, just look back and see that it was possible. It doesn't mean that the price of Ethereum necessarily has to fall, but you can rest assured that if Bitcoin is going up by like $10,000 a week at that point, then that's where most of the eyes are going to be on the market. So then what do we expect? We would expect the ratio, and I mean, it might move sideways a little bit. It doesn't necessarily have to bleed immediately. But then eventually, the ratio is going to start bleeding, I believe, with respect to Bitcoin. But I don't think it'll go back down to this level down here. I don't think we're going to go back to 0.03. I think it would be more in line to say go back to a ratio of around 0.05. And the reason is because we tend to just continue to step up this curve in terms of, say, our cooldown period being our next accumulation phase. So if this is our next cooldown period, then this would be our next accumulation in around the 0.05 Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. Okay, hope we're keeping up so far. From here, I would expect that Bitcoin, it's going to make that run. Let's suppose that it happens in August of 2023. I don't know when it's exactly going to occur. It could be late. I mean, I think I've said the earliest I could see it happening would be like the last quarter of 2022, but I really doubt it would happen in 2022. And then even going as late as sometime in 2024. And then, after Bitcoin does make that move, right, to 20K, or to say 100K, then I think the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio would move up again. And the question, right, is are we going to break through this level of 0.15 again? I'm not banking on it. I certainly think it's possible that it happens, but I wouldn't necessarily count on that happening. I wouldn't say like you should manage your entire holding of Ethereum based on the fact that you think it has to go above this level. It could just be that Ethereum Bitcoin just kind of oscillates within this channel, and that it slowly over many cycles tends to trend upwards, but it might not necessarily break that 0.15 level. But more or less, I think that the ratio will trend upwards in terms of, say, like where does it spend most of its time. I don't think it's going to spend most of its time in like the 0.017 valuation against Bitcoin. So then, now if you think about it, right, if Bitcoin goes to 100K and the valuation of Ethereum, right, it drops with respect to Bitcoin, maybe down to 0.05, then that puts Ethereum, right? I mean, it puts it at if it is 0.05, like if it were 0.1, it would obviously put it at 10K. If it is this level, then it might be around 5K. I don't know that it would necessarily, those prices would line up exactly. It could very well, that the ratio could very well go back a bit lower. But I would expect Ethereum to take another move against Bitcoin and potentially reach that 0.1 threshold again. I don't think I think we'll hit that region more than once during the market cycle. And if that happens, and if Bitcoin is, say, 100K or 120K, then that does put Ethereum around five figures. And I recognize that is it seems absurd to think of a like a $5,000 Ethereum or a $10,000 Ethereum, but a $1,400 Ethereum also seemed absurd when it was $1. So it's always about perspective. And in fact, moving from $1 to $1,400 was more significant than moving from $200 to, say, $6,000 or $7,000. It's not, moving from that $1 to $1,400, that was more impressive. So this is my general thinking for the market cycle. When these things exactly line up, it's a guess. I can't tell you exactly when they're going to happen, but this is what I would say. This is how I would react to the market. Before we continue, we're going to jump into the Ethereum USD price. Before I do, I want to remind you, if you guys like this channel, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, share it around. We also do have a premium list. You can check it out at intothecryptoverse.com. We have a lot of people on it. I think people are finding value in it. We have around 400 people signed up, over 400 now. You get access to a private Telegram channel that has alerts. It tells you what I'm doing, what I think about the markets. I'll post a lot of these updates on the charts. I'll give you my thoughts, what I'm doing, dynamic DCA from one asset to another. I'll show you the risk levels. You'll get access to a live dashboard that shows you the risk levels of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, Cardano, and a few other coins. We're adding to that always. I'm going to be adding on precious metals as well. In addition to that, you get a weekly premium video. So if you guys like these videos, I do put a lot more effort into the premium videos. So I think you'll like those even more. So check it out. And then also you get a newsletter, which is not your typical like mushy newsletter, or a newsletter that someone just throws together in 5 minutes. I mean, I spend a lot of time on these, and they contain models in them backed by quantitative finance. This is what you should be using, in my opinion, not just drawing lines on charts on the 1 hour time frame. So this is what I use. If you want access to that, sign up for the premium list, and you can even pay with crypto for 6 or 12 months and get a pretty nice discount, like 5 to 10% discount. So do check it out. If it's not your thing, you could always cancel your subscription. It is monthly if you pay with fiat. But I do think it is providing a lot of value to people, and you can see what you get, and there's a lot of different types of analysis that we do. If you have questions, you can join the public Telegram channel and ask away. Tons of people in there on the premium list, and they'll give you their thoughts. So just ask them what they think, and you can figure out if it's the right thing for you or not. So jumping back in, we've talked about the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio, right? This is our general projection for the market cycle. The question is, are we going to break 0.15? If we do great, are we going to break 0.1? If we do great. But you need to have a plan, and this is why I do it based on the risk metric, which I do talk about on the channel some. But you need to have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, you're going to go into this market cycle like a lot of people went into this market cycle and then just watch their profits just disappear as if it never even happened. So remember, until you take profits, it really doesn't mean anything. Let's now pivot to the USD chart, okay? So this is our fair value, our quote-unquote fair value for Ethereum. And this is against US dollar. This is our primary logarithmic regression band, okay? This here shows the logarithmic difference, or it shows the difference here between the price and the regression line. So it's just the closing price divided by the regression line. In this case, it is. And here I'm actually taking the log of that, so you can see a bit better what's going on. Here I'm not taking the log of it, but you can generally see that in January of 2018 it was 38 times higher than the fair value. Okay, you can see that 38.43 or so. And since then we've been all the way down here because it's mostly been right around the fair value for quite a long period of time. We're looking to break back into another speculative bubble that will last several years. So I had some people saying, you know, is this the move you were talking about? Is this the move, the 8% move against the US dollar? No, this is not the move. This might be the preamble to the move. But again, as I've said, I mean, who gets out of bed for 8%? We want to see these bigger gains over a longer period of time, because day trading usually is a great way to lose your money. If you want to say make key swing trades at key points during the market cycle based on just what the data says and not what some random news article says, then I think you should go that route. Look at more so what does the data say. I personally think that this has been, as I made a video the other day, this is the accumulation phase of your lifetime, like one of the best accumulation phases you will likely see. And again, I admit I could be wrong. There's always the chance that Ethereum goes to zero, and you need to be prepared for that to happen. But if you're prepared for that to happen and you can take on that risk, then again in 2023, if you're sitting there and euphoric because you just made unimaginable money based on the market cycle, and all of your friends are calling you lucky, again, you're not lucky, right? You made a calculated risk and it paid off. This is the whole idea. I mean, it's about making calculated risks, maximizing your Sharpe ratio based on your portfolio. This is why I do hold more Bitcoin than Ethereum, but Ethereum is my second largest holding. So, ultimately speaking, I'm going to be looking for this to go into another speculative bubble, something like that. I mean, I'm just loosely drawing it, but this is ultimately what I'm expecting. Right now, we're still in our regression band. If the price of Ethereum comes back down to $245 tomorrow, it's no big deal, guys. I mean, this will be par for the course. If it goes up to $300 tomorrow, business as usual, right? It's business as usual. This is what we're here for, and I think this will be the time. This will be one of the times of our lives that we'll look back on and say, I was the one accumulating Ethereum when I should have been. So what do we see? If this is the case and Ethereum, it continues marching. Let me go ahead and remove these so we can actually see the chart a little bit better. But if Ethereum does what we think it's going to do, if the ratio with respect to Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and draw on here our potential projection out in 2023. We're also going to draw the 2021 as our general time to when Bitcoin gets to a sustainable $20,000. Okay, and then we're going to just again just for completeness, we're just going to draw some uncertainty around that, because we don't know when it's going to happen. But maybe sometime in that time frame, and then sometime for this one, sometime in this time frame. And again, I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but this is just loosely what I think will happen. So if this is the case, and this time I'm just going to use a brush so that I can a little bit more freely draw this. I would love to see Ethereum break out to $300-400 sometime this year. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I do think it's possible. And if we do, then remember that there's a good chance that it's not going to be sustainable, and we'll come back down. And even if you look at the past market cycle, you can see that we had these pumps around after getting to the 20-week moving average when it pumped to say $16, $15, and then ultimately retraced back down to $7. So this was a 50% retracement. So don't be surprised if you see a move up. Actually, I drew this one way too high. I forgot this was a log scale. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So let's draw this again. We're gonna go up to say just a few $100s over the course of several months, maybe sometime in 2021, and then maybe we kind of retrace back down, something like that. I mean, I'm just loosely drawing this. I don't exactly know what's gonna happen. And then after Bitcoin gets to its previous all-time high, Ethereum makes another move during the year of 2022, and maybe gets up to around $2,000. Okay, something like that. And then maybe it comes back down, maybe it retraces some, but ultimately, I do think it'll go up and get close at least to the to that 5-figure mark. So if we zoom out, this is more or less what I would see happening. And again, these lines are somewhat arbitrary. The way that they're drawn was just random on the screen. This is more or less what I'm looking for, and then you have to remember, what goes up this quickly must come down, or at least generally speaking. So we would probably come back down. And my guess is we would maybe settle in at around $2,000 or so. And the reason, one of the reasons I say this is because I do think that after yet another market cycle, I think the fair value of Ethereum to Bitcoin will be around 0.05, or somewhere in that area. And if Bitcoin retraces back down to say $50,000, let's say it goes up to 130 or something, and then retraces back down to 50, and then if maybe even like $40,000, let's say $40,000, because that is where the fair value of Bitcoin will be in 2024, 2025 or so, around $40,000 to $50,000. So if it retraces back to that level, and the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio retraces back to 0.05, okay, then that would put the Ethereum price at a few $1,000s, because I mean if Bitcoin were 50K and the valuation were 0.01, then it would put Ethereum at 5,000. If it were 0.05, it would put it at 2,500. So ultimately, this is what I see playing out. I see Ethereum having a really good next several years, and then ultimately it'll come back down to a more sustainable level, maybe around $2,000, and this will be kind of like the base that we build off of for the next market cycle, which will be much longer than this one. Now, some of you may be wondering, because I usually get this question, given current market conditions, how could this affect things? Of course, it could affect things. If the stock market were to crash, there's certainly a good chance that people would maybe liquidate their higher risk assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum. It is possible. I get that it was born out of the 2008 recession, but at the end of the day, like there really are no guarantees. So if the stock market does crash and Bitcoin takes a hit, it just means we're kicking the can down the road, and we still have plenty of time for this to play out. I mean, even if Ethereum drops back down to 150 in the short term, we've seen how quickly it can recover. I mean, Ethereum was around $100 in March, and we're already back to 264. So we know how quickly things can recover. If that were to happen, I would say treat it as an opportunity, because I do think over the next several years, sometime in 2023, maybe 2024, it's going to be a great time to really be in crypto and be prepared for what is happening. Not to be one of those people that is on the fringe and they barely notice it and they just look at it when the prices go up and then they FOMO in. You don't want to be the dumb money. You want to be the smart money accumulating now, because if you're accumulating within, say, these regression bands, like where we tend to have our support areas, then ultimately speaking, when the price is 2K or something, you're already up 10x, and there's a lot of people that are going to be entering the market at that point hoping to go to 20K, but you're already going to be up 10x, and then a move to say 4K, you're up 20x, but these new people are only up 2x, and they're going to be greedy and they're going to want more and more, and you're going to be selling them, you're going to be selling them those bags that you built up over many years, and then we're going to rinse and repeat, and the cycle goes on. Wealth gets transferred from dumb money to smart money. These new people will capitulate at some point, most likely. They'll either leave the market or they'll become the smart money for the next market cycle. So I get that a lot of you guys want to see a $10,000 Ethereum by the end of 2021. Just recognize it's likely not going to happen. Just be prepared for the fact that it could happen. I mean, I'm not going to say it can't happen. It just likely won't happen. And just remember, I mean, knowledge is power. Having the knowledge that there's a good chance that it won't happen should help you manage your overall portfolio, because you recognize, okay, well, this was never part of the plan anyways. The data never suggested it was going to go that high that quickly. Let me know what you guys think about this. I mean, I know there's a lot of speculation in the video. A lot of you guys are super bullish on Ethereum. Let me know what you think. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to grow the channel. We're currently at around like 26,000 subscribers. Love to push that to 30,000 if we can. And also remember to check out the premium list, which you can find a link to in the description below. It's just intothecryptoverse.com. Finally, there is a Telegram channel that you can join in the description below as well. We have around 4,100 people in there, and you can go debate. You can go debate these projections, till you're just tired and want to go to sleep, and there'll be people in there to chat with you. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys appreciate the perspective. I'm not just saying Ethereum's going to go to $1 million or anything, or it's going to make you a millionaire this year. I'm trying to show what I think is going to happen based on what I feel like the data suggest. So let me know what you guys think. See you next time. Bye.